Zanelle's life in Nyarobe is far from easy. Though she is kind and hard-working, her stepmother, Nthanda, treats her with coldness and resentment. While the village admires Zanelle's gentle nature and willingness to help others, Nthanda sees her as nothing more than an obstacle. She forces Zanelle to do all the household chores, from fetching water to cooking and cleaning, while her own son enjoys a life of comfort. Despite the harsh treatment, Zanelle never complains. She finds solace in the kindness of the villagers, who appreciate her helpful nature. She spends her time tending to the animals, assisting elders, and playing with younger children, earning their love and respect. But no amount of kindness can change the way her stepmother sees her. Nthanda's hatred grows with time, and she begins to look for a way to rid herself of Zanelle once and for all. Nthanda's resentment towards Zanelle festers like a wound. Every time she sees the villagers praising the girl for her kindness and beauty, her jealousy deepens. She fears that Zanelle's presence will outshine her own son, Jabari, making it harder for him to secure a prosperous future. In her mind, Zanelle is a threat, a girl who must be dealt with before she ruins everything Nthanda has planned. Determined to break Zanelle's spirit, Nthanda begins treating her worse than ever. She forces the girl to wake before dawn, making her fetch water from the distant river, cook meals, and clean the house while she and Jabari enjoy a life of ease. No matter how much work Zanelle completes, it is never enough. Nthanda always finds a reason to scold or punish her, often denying her food or forcing her to sleep outside. Despite the cruelty, Zanelle never loses her kind nature. She greets the villagers with a smile, helps the elders with their daily tasks, and comforts the children with stories. The people of Nyarobe admire her strength, whispering about her resilience behind Nthanda's back. But their admiration only fuels Nthanda's hatred. She wants Zanelle gone, not just from her home, but from the village entirely. One fateful day, a mysterious traveler arrives in Nyarobe. His name is Bakari, a wealthy man whose reputation sends shivers down the spines of those who hear it. Some say he is a warlord, others believe he deals in forbidden magic. He walks through the village with an air of power, his men trailing behind him like shadows. Wherever he goes, silence follows. Nthanda watches Bakari with great interest. She sees the way the villagers step aside in fear, the way even the strongest men lower their eyes in his presence. This is a man who takes what he wants, a man with no conscience. To Nthanda, he is the perfect answer to her problem. That night, while Omari is away on a trade journey, Nthanda makes her move. She sneaks out of the house and finds Bakari at the village's edge, speaking in hushed tones with his men. Ignoring the fear clawing at her chest, she approaches him and bows respectfully. Bakari's cold eyes settle on her, and for a moment she hesitates, but then she speaks, her voice dripping with false concern. She tells him about a girl, young, beautiful and strong, a girl who would make a perfect servant, a perfect companion. She offers him Zanelle in exchange for gold, spinning lies about how ungrateful and disobedient she is, how she would be better off serving a man like him than wasting away in the village. Bakari listens, amused by her desperation. He has taken many girls before, some given to him willingly, others stolen in the dead of night. He does not care about their fate, only their usefulness. After a moment of silence, he nods, signaling one of his men to hand Nthanda a small pouch of gold coins. Nthanda's hands tremble as she takes the pouch. It is more wealth than she has ever held before. With this, she can ensure Jabari's future, secure her own comfort. She turns to leave, but Bakari's voice stops her. "Deliver the girl to me by nightfall," he says, his tone leaving no room for argument. "If you betray me, you will pay the price." Nthanda nods quickly and hurries home, her heart pounding. She has done it. She has secured her son's future. All that remains is to get rid of Zanelle once and for all. As the sun sets, she calls for Zanelle, pretending to need help carrying something outside. Unsuspecting, Zanelle follows her stepmother, only to be met with Bakari's men. Before she can scream, they grab her, tying her hands and gagging her mouth. Terror fills her eyes as she struggles, but the men are too strong. Nthanda watches as they drag Zanelle away, a cruel smile forming on her lips. At last, the girl is gone. She returns home, imagining a life free from Zanelle's shadow, free from the burden she had carried for so long. Little does she know, she has just set into motion events that will bring her downfall. Zanelle's peaceful world shatters in a single night. As the moon casts eerie shadows over Nyarobe, she is forcefully dragged from her home. Her stepmother, Nthanda, watches from the doorway, her arms crossed, her expression cold and satisfied. Zanelle's cries for help are muffled by the cloth tied around her mouth, her hands bound tightly behind her back. Panic floods her chest, but deep inside, she knows no one will come to her aid. Her father, Omari, is away on a trade journey, and the villagers are fast asleep. Bakari's men waste no time. They shove her onto a horse, securing her like a piece of cargo. The moment the group begins their journey, fear settles in her bones. She has never been beyond the borders of Nyarobe, and now she is being taken deep into the unknown. The jungle swallows them whole, its thick canopy blocking out the stars. The only sounds are the rhythmic hooves on the damp earth and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Zanelle forces herself to stay calm, focusing on her surroundings. Every rustling leaf, every distant growl, she memorizes it all, knowing that understanding the land might be her only chance at escape. The men talk in hushed voices, unaware that she listens carefully. Some speak of Bakari in fear, whispering that he is not just a warlord, but something darker. They say his power extends beyond brute strength, that he dabbles in forbidden magic, controlling those who dare to oppose him. Others claim he is ruthless, a man who punishes betrayal with fates worse than death. Zanelle's heart pounds. If even his own men fear him, what does that mean for her? Hours stretch into what feels like eternity. Exhaustion grips her, but she fights to stay awake. The path grows rougher, the air heavier. Finally, just as dawn begins to break, they reach their destination, a fortress hidden deep in the wilderness. The structure is unlike anything Zanelle has ever seen. Massive stone walls loom high, wrapped in creeping vines. The entrance is guarded by towering men, their faces expressionless. The sight of them sends a chill through her spine. As they pass through the iron gates, she realizes the full extent of her captivity. The fortress is more than just a home. It is a prison. Women move like shadows, their eyes hollow, their bodies marked by unseen burdens. Some carry water, others scrub the stone floors, their hands raw. No one speaks. A heavy silence lingers in the air, thicker than the mist that rolls in from the jungle. The weight of her fate settles on her shoulders. She is no longer in Nyarobe, no longer free. She is at the mercy of Bakari, a man she has yet to meet, but already fears. The men dismount and yank her down. She stumbles, but does not fall. Though her hands are still tied, she straightens her back, refusing to show weakness. One of the guards smirks. She has spirit, he mutters. Let's see how long that lasts. Zanelle is dragged through the courtyard, past women who barely lift their heads. She wants to scream, to demand answers, but she knows better. Observing is her only weapon for now. They stop before a grand entrance, the doors carved with intricate patterns of beasts and warriors. One of the men pounds on it, and after a moment, it creaks open. Zanelle is shoved inside. The air is cooler, scented with burning incense. The room is dimly lit, shadows dancing on the stone walls. And then she sees him, Bakari. He sits on a throne-like chair, his presence overwhelming. His dark eyes study her, unreadable, assessing. He is not as old as she expected, but there is something ancient about him, something dangerous. Zanelle holds his gaze, refusing to lower her eyes in submission. She may be his prisoner, but she will not be broken. Not yet. Bakari sits back in his grand chair, his sharp eyes fixed on Zanelle. The flickering torches cast long shadows across the stone walls, giving the room a ghostly feel. Zanelle stands in the center, her hands still bound, her heart hammering in her chest. But she does not let fear show on her face. She refuses to give him the satisfaction. Bakari is more than just a wealthy man. He is a ruler of a hidden world, one built on fear, power, and control. His name is whispered across villages, his influence stretching beyond borders. He deals in secrets, trades in human lives, and crushes those who dare to defy him. Women are nothing more than trophies to him, possessions that can be bought, sold, and discarded at his will. And now, he looks at Zanelle as if she is just another prize, another conquest. But something about her makes him pause. Most who stand before him tremble, their voices shaking, their eyes filled with silent pleas. Yet Zanelle does not break. She does not cry or beg. Her silence is not fear, it is something else, something that unsettles even a man like Bakari. He leans forward, studying her with amusement. "You're different," he muses, his voice slow and deliberate. "Most fall to their knees, desperate to please. But you," he tilts his head, "you think you're stronger than them." Zanelle meets his gaze, her expression unreadable. She knows any word she speaks now will be used against her, so she stays silent, her mind racing, absorbing every detail of her surroundings. The guards at the door, the weapons strapped to their belts, the slight gap between the floor and the window. She takes it all in, every detail a possible key to her escape. Bakari chuckles. "Ah, so you think silence will save you?" He stands, his presence commanding. "Let me make this clear. You belong to me now." He steps closer, his voice turning cold. "You will obey me. You will do as I say, or you will suffer the consequences." Still, Zanelle says nothing. Her silence is not submission, it is defiance, and Bakari knows it. His amusement fades slightly, replaced by curiosity. He has broken countless people, forced warriors to kneel, turned the strong into nothing. But this girl, she stands there, unshaken, calculating. It excites him, angers him, and intrigues him all at once. He smirks. "Let's see how long you can keep this up," he signals to his men. "Take her to the chambers. She will learn her place soon enough." As the guards grab her arms and drag her away, Zanelle does not fight. Fighting now would be foolish. Instead, she keeps her head high, her mind sharp. She is trapped in a world ruled by a monster, but she is not broken, not yet. Zanelle is thrown into a dimly lit chamber, the heavy door slamming shut behind her. The cold air is thick with despair, yet she does not allow fear to settle in her heart. She sits in silence, listening to the faint whispers of the other captives, their voices filled with hopelessness. But Zanelle is not like them. She refuses to accept defeat. If she is going to survive, she must understand the world she has been forced into, and more importantly, she must find its weaknesses. Over the next few days, she carefully observes everything. She studies the guards, their routines, the way they move around the fortress. She notices how they hesitate before entering Bakari's private chambers, how they lower their eyes in fear whenever his name is spoken. Even among his own men, Bakari holds an unnatural power. It is through whispered conversations with the other captives that Zanelle begins to uncover the truth. Bakari's strength is not just from his wealth or his army. It comes from something much darker. Hidden deep in his chambers is a sacred talisman, an ancient artifact that allows him to command spirits and instill terror in those who oppose him. Many believe it grants him his unnatural presence, making him seem untouchable, invincible. Zanelle listens carefully, piecing together the stories. The talisman is said to be the source of his rule, the key to his fearsome reputation. Without it, he is just a man, and men can fall. This is the moment when her fear begins to fade, replaced by something else, determination. If she can destroy the talisman, Bakari will lose everything, but she cannot do it alone. She starts speaking to the other captives, earning their trust. Among them are those who were once warriors, leaders, people of strength who had been broken under Bakari's rule. She listens to their stories, learns about the enemies who wait in the shadows, the villages that have suffered under his control. There are people outside these walls who would rise against him if given the chance. A plan begins to form in Zanelle's mind. It will not be easy. It will take patience, courage, and perfect timing. But she knows now that Bakari is not as untouchable as he wants everyone to believe. He is not a god. He is just a man clinging to borrowed power, and she is going to take it from him. Zanelle lowers her gaze and bows her head when Bakari enters the hall, just as she has done every day since she arrived. She has learned how to act the part, how to appear weak, broken, submissive. Bakari believes he has won, that she has accepted her fate. But in reality, she has been watching, waiting, and planning. For weeks, she has memorized the fortress's layout, the guards' routines, and most importantly, Bakari's habits. She knows that every few nights, he retreats to his private chamber to perform his rituals. This is when he is at his most vulnerable, lost in his dark practices, believing himself untouchable. Tonight is one of those nights. The air is thick with the scent of burning herbs as Bakari disappears into his chamber. The guards remain at their posts, but Zanelle knows their patterns. She has observed their moments of distraction, their exhaustion. Slipping through the shadows, she moves with quiet precision. Her heart pounds, but her hands remain steady. She has come too far to fail now. She reaches the chamber's door and presses her ear against it. Inside, She hears the low hum of Bakari's voice, chanting in a language she does not understand. The room glows with an eerie red light from the crack beneath the door. Zanelle takes a deep breath. This is the moment. She pushes the door open just enough to slip inside, her bare feet making no sound against the stone floor. The room is filled with strange objects, bones, carved symbols, flickering candles, but her eyes are fixed on one thing, the talisman. It sits atop a pedestal, a dark stone pulsing with an unnatural glow. Even from a distance, Zanelle can feel its power, a low vibration that makes the hairs on her arms stand up. This is the source of Bakari's control, the object that has kept so many in fear. She knows she has only seconds. Bakari's back is turned, his arms raised as he continues his ritual. His voice rises, filling the chamber. Zanelle moves swiftly. With one quick step, she reaches the pedestal and grabs the talisman. The moment her fingers touch it, a jolt of energy rushes through her, cold and electric. The sensation is overwhelming, as if the stone itself is alive. Bakari freezes. He turns, his eyes blazing with fury as he realizes what has happened. "You dare!" Before he can finish, Zanelle raises the talisman high above her head and smashes it to the ground. The impact sends a deafening crack through the chamber. The stone shatters into 1,000 pieces, releasing a burst of energy that ripples through the room like a shockwave. The candles flicker wildly, and the air itself seems to shake. Bakari staggers backward, his body convulsing. A guttural scream tears from his throat as the power he had stolen, the fear he had built his empire on, crumbles into nothing. For the first time, Bakari looks afraid. Zanelle does not wait to see what happens next. She turns and runs, her body filled with adrenaline. The fortress is already in chaos, guards shout in confusion. The captives realize something has changed. She has done it. She has turned the tables on the monster. A chilling scream tears through the fortress, a sound so raw and filled with agony that it sends shivers down the spines of everyone who hears it. Bakari clutches his chest, his body convulsing as if something is being ripped from within him. The power he had relied on for so long, the dark force that made him untouchable, is gone. His connection to the spirits is severed, and for the first time, he is nothing more than a man. His guards, who once cowered before him, exchange uncertain glances. The fear that had kept them loyal is crumbling. Bakari had ruled with an iron grip, but only because they believed he was something greater than human. Now they see the truth. He is weak, vulnerable, mortal. A low murmur spreads through the fortress. The captives, who had lived under his cruelty for years, sense the shift in power. They no longer look at Bakari with fear, but with rage. One of the former warriors, a man named Jabari, steps forward. He had been captured long ago, broken by Bakari's rule, but now his eyes burn with vengeance. "He is nothing without his talisman," Jabari roars. "This is our chance." The captives rise, their chains no longer a symbol of submission, but of the suffering they are ready to end. They rush forward, overwhelming Bakari's remaining men. The guards hesitate, some fight back, but many throw down their weapons, unwilling to defend a man who no longer holds power over them. Zanelle does not hesitate. She moves through the chaos, leading the captives toward the fortress gates. She knows that staying here too long is dangerous. Even without his powers, Bakari is still a man capable of cruelty. She will not risk giving him a second chance. She finds a set of keys on a fallen guard and unlocks the heavy doors that had trapped so many. The cool night air rushes in as the prisoners spill out, their voices filled with relief and disbelief. For the first time in years, they are free. Zanelle takes the lead, guiding them through the thick jungle. She remembers the path they took when she was first brought here. The turns, the hidden trails. Every step away from the fortress feels like a victory. Behind them, Bakari's screams grow weaker. The man who had once ruled with absolute power is nothing more than a desperate voice lost in the night. The monster has fallen. Zanelle moves swiftly through the dense jungle, leading the freed captives with unwavering determination. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth, and the distant sounds of the night creatures echo around them. Each step away from Bakari's fortress feels like shedding the chains of the past. But Zanelle knows her journey is not over. She has escaped the clutches of a monster, but another enemy still waits for her at home, the one who sold her in the first place. For days, they travel, navigating the wilderness with only the stars to guide them. Many of the captives are weak from years of imprisonment, their bodies frail, their spirits bruised. But Zanelle keeps them moving, encouraging them with every step. She has changed. No longer the helpless girl who was dragged away in the night, but a leader, a warrior. Finally, as the sun rises on the 5th day, the trees thin, and the familiar sight of Nyarobe comes into view. The village is just as she left it, peaceful, untouched by the horrors she endured. But everything feels different now. As she and the captives step into the village, silence falls. The people freeze, staring in shock. Gasps ripple through the crowd. They had long believed Zanelle to be lost forever, swallowed by the unknown. Yet here she stands, stronger than ever, with an army of survivors behind her. Then, the whispers begin. She's alive. Zanelle has returned. Where has she been? Zanelle doesn't wait for their questions. She walks straight to the center of the village, where her father, Omari, is working with the other men. At the sight of her, he drops his tools, his face paling in disbelief. Zanelle! His voice trembles. Tears sting her eyes, but she does not let them fall. I'm here, Baba. Omari rushes forward, pulling her into his arms, holding her as if afraid she will vanish again. They told me you were gone. They told me you ran away. His voice breaks. I searched for you, but... He pulls back, eyes scanning her face. Where have you been? Zanelle steps back and looks around, searching for the one person she needs to face. And there she is, Nthanda, standing near the entrance of their home, her face twisted in shock. For the first time, fear flickers in the woman's cold eyes. Zanelle raises her voice so the entire village can hear. I did not run away. She turns to face the crowd. I was taken, sold like an object, by my own stepmother. Gasps ripple through the village. All eyes turn to Nthanda, who stiffens, her lips parting as if to protest. But before she can speak, Zanelle continues. She gave me away to a monster named Bakari. She took gold and sent me into darkness, but I survived. She takes a step closer to Nthanda, her voice unwavering. I escaped, but not because of you, because I refused to be broken. Omari turns to his wife, his face contorted with horror. Tell me this is a lie. Nthanda opens her mouth, but no words come. Her silence is all the confirmation the village needs. A murmur of outrage spreads. People who once turned a blind eye to Nthanda's cruelty now see her for what she truly is. Omari's fists tremble at his sides. His heartache is visible, his trust shattered. He steps forward, his voice shaking with barely contained fury. You betrayed my daughter. You betrayed us all. Zanelle lifts her chin. I demand justice. And this time, the village stands with her. Nthanda's face drains of color as the villagers close in around her. Desperation flashes in her eyes, and she shakes her head, her hands trembling. She's lying, she cries, her voice high with panic. Zanelle has always been jealous of me. She ran away and now wants to ruin me. But no one believes her. Omari steps forward, his eyes filled with grief and fury. Enough. His voice is sharp, cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. He turns to the village elders, who have gathered to witness the truth unfold. We must judge her for what she has done. The oldest elder, a man named Jabari, steps forward, leaning on his carved staff. He has seen many years, many betrayals, but this is unforgivable. Nthanda, he says, his voice steady and strong, you stand accused of the greatest betrayal, selling your own child for greed. Do you deny it? Nthanda's lips tremble, her eyes darting around, searching for an escape. Jabari does not wait for her excuses. We have heard Zanelle's words, and we have seen your actions. Your heart is poisoned by envy. Do you have anything to say before judgment is passed? Nthanda swallows hard, and for a brief moment, her expression changes. The fight drains from her, replaced by something that almost looks like regret. But then, just as quickly, her face hardens again. I did what I had to. She was a burden. I deserved more. Gasps fill the air. Omari clenches his fists, his heartbreak visible. She was my daughter. You stole her from me. You stole from this village. Jabari nods. Then the village shall decide her fate. A heavy silence settles over the crowd as the elders whisper among themselves. But there is no debate, no argument. Her crime is clear. Finally, Jabari lifts his staff and speaks. Nthanda, for your betrayal, for the suffering you have caused, you are cast out from Nyarobe. You are no longer welcome here. From this day forward, you will walk alone. Nthanda stares in horror. No, you can't. But the villagers step forward, forcing her back. A woman spits at her feet. Another shakes her head in disgust. Even those who once tolerated her cruelty now turn their backs on her. Omari's voice is hollow as he speaks his final words to her. You had a family. You had a home, and you threw it all away. Nthanda's breath comes in short gasps as reality sinks in. She drops to her knees, clutching Omari's robe. Please, my love, have mercy. I was blinded by greed, but I can change. Omari pulls away. It's too late. The villagers push her toward the edge of the village. She stumbles, her cries turning to shrieks. You'll regret this, all of you. But no one listens. Zanelle watches in silence as Nthanda is cast into the wilderness, left to face the world alone, the same way she had left Zanelle to suffer. This time, justice has spoken. The sun rises over Nyarobe, casting golden light on the village that once believed Zanelle was lost forever. But she is not lost. She has returned, stronger than ever. No longer the helpless girl forced to endure cruelty. She now walks with confidence, her head held high. She is not a victim of fate. She is a survivor, a warrior. The villagers gather around her, their eyes filled with admiration. They had always loved her, but now they see her for what she truly is. A symbol of resilience, a beacon of hope. Women whisper her name with pride, telling their daughters of the girl who refused to be broken. Men nod in respect, acknowledging the strength she carries within her. Even the elders, wise and weathered by time, bow their heads in recognition of her courage. Omari, her father, stands before her, his eyes wet with emotion. I failed you, my daughter, he says, his voice trembling. I let her hurt you, and I did not see the truth until it was too late. Zanelle looks at him, the pain of the past still lingering in her heart, but she does not let it consume her. You were blind, father, she says, but now you see. She places a hand on his shoulder, offering him the forgiveness he so desperately seeks. That is enough. With Nthanda gone and Bakari's reign of terror ended, peace settles over the village. But Zanelle knows her journey does not end here. She has seen the darkness that lurks beyond the safety of Nyarobe, and she knows that there are others, girls like her, trapped, silenced, sold like objects. She cannot forget them. She will not. So she begins a new path. She trains, learning the ways of the warriors, mastering the art of survival and defense. She teaches the young girls of the village how to fight, how to stand tall, how to never bow to cruelty. She does not seek revenge. She seeks justice. Word of her bravery spreads beyond Nyarobe, reaching the ears of nearby villages. People come to hear her story, to learn from her wisdom. Women who have suffered find strength in her words. Men who once turned a blind eye begin to see the truth. She becomes more than just a survivor. She becomes a leader, a protector. One day, a group of travelers arrives, speaking of distant lands where girls are still stolen, where men like Bakari thrive in the shadows. Zanelle listens, her heart burning with purpose. She knows what she must do. She gathers her closest allies, those who once suffered under Bakari's rule, those who refuse to live in fear. Together they form a new force, one that moves in silence, striking against those who prey on the weak. Zanelle is no longer just a girl from Nyarobe. She is a legend. Her name becomes a story told in hushed voices and proud declarations. Mothers name their daughters after her. Warriors carve her tale into the walls of their villages. She has become a symbol of power, of freedom, of a fearless heart. And as she stands at the edge of her village, looking out into the world beyond, she knows one thing for certain. Her journey is far from over. This is just the beginning. Zanelle's journey didn't end here, and neither should yours. Her story is one of survival, strength, and justice, just like the battles we all face. But there's more to uncover, more lessons to learn. Don't stop now. Watch the next story, feel the power, and let it inspire you. And if this story moved you, show your support. Like, share, and subscribe. Because every story deserves to be heard, and every warrior deserves a voice.